Most of us cannot imagine having a system without a penalization system. The longer I live in the temple, and I live in black supremacy, in the community that we have established here in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been living in temples, in temple building for, I would say, over 10, maybe 15 years now. I've been living in communal livings and communes and temple houses and things like that, and I've got a chance to experience a lot from people all around the United States, beautiful people from all over the places, different walks of life, culture, states and cities, and even different countries. I live with people from South Africa. I live with people from different Caribbean islands and even different countries. And I've got so much insight from doing that. And I've come to the realization that we've been able to live in these temples without a penalization system. And in peace, we've been able to live in harmony. And we have, people get along. We are what the black conscious community say they're striving to achieve. We are a microcosm of that. All these other organizations are ready to kill you. They're ready to beat you down. They're ready to murder you over this and that. You don't sell enough of these. You don't do this. They're all judgmental. It's all gangbanging. But here in black supremacy, I've learned that people can live in peace without penalizing each other, without being so judgmental, without being so critical, without being so temperamental. But it shocks people that have lived under white supremacy, a country that has made money capitalizing off the enslavement and the imprisonment of their own people, largest prison population in the world. It's hard for the average one of us to conceptualize that we can actually live together without no penalization system. That's radical. We can imagine that we can have a peaceful society where we live in harmony without no penalization system whatsoever. That we can challenge people to consciously evolve. Because that would to me, that would have to be what about conscious evolution is. Because penalization is brutality. If you're going to have to execute somebody, you're going to have to cut somebody's head off, you're going to put somebody in the gas chamber, you're going to have to lock somebody up in confinement forever. This doesn't sound like an evolved society to me. This does not sound like an enlightened group of people. The same society that's against crime, that's against you taking hostages and imprisoning people, that's against torture, that's supposed to be locking people up and protecting people from the torture and the brutality of others, use torture and brutality in order to protect those of whom they torture and brutalize. It makes no goddamn sense. And when black white supremacists talk about creating a society, these black white supremacists is talking about the same thing. They just want to create a society where they can be the ones that beat up on their own people, where they can be the ones to chastise their own people. I see that. I've been seeing that. They want to be the police against their own people. That's all. That black nationalism to them means for those who are self-righteous to rule over the rest of black people. To me, black nationalism and black supremacy, it means freedom for black people and domination over white people. That's my perspective. Most of these groups don't even care about addressing how the white man is out of control and the brutality of the white man. They want to address and judge what black people are doing within our own community and let the white man run rampant. And even what the white man do, they blame black people within their own community for doing. If the white man shoot us, it's our fault. We should have did this. We didn't do this. The white man pull us over, it's our fault. We should have cooperated, or we should have, had Moore's Law, or said our UCC, or knew our rights. It's always our fault when the white man do something to us. But when we talk about setting up a system of our own, we want to brutally govern ourselves even worse than the white man do. And nobody wants to be penalized. Let's be honest, on a human rights level, just on a humanitarian perspective. Nobody wants to be penalized. But everybody wants to believe that there needs to be a penal code or a penal system until it's their day of judgment and their day of execution. Do you see the hypocrisy of that within the human being? You know, I'm not. Let's go beyond black or white or Chinese or Asian or Hindu. Everybody believes in the penalization of another person versus the penalization of themselves. Nobody will support their own execution. No one will try to show up on time for their own execution. But they will show up early for somebody else's. Do you hear me? So imagine a society without no penalization system, one that is based on conscious evolution, one that's based on free thought, the evolution of humanitarianism, the evolution of compassion towards one another, that compassion rules our society, that our government, our weapon against the injustice within our society is compassion. Does that sound too idealistic for you? That doesn't sound enough Soviet Union for you? That doesn't sound enough democracy or Republican? Does that sound Christian enough for you, or what do you call it, Sharia law? Is that enough Sharia law for you? That's not enough Sharia law for you, because I don't see no difference between Sharia law or law under the Torah or law under United States imperialism. I don't see a difference in them. They're all very blunt and very brutish when it comes down to the execution of law to maintain the power of the state. I don't see any difference. You know, they all have this irredeemable aspect to them. You can't believe in human elevation, human evolution, and human consciousness, ascension, and believe in and having an idea of irredeemability. And I hope I'm not making up my own words, which I might be, but just follow me with that. You have to have infinite human redemption in order to really support true consciousness evolution. Because if you cut somebody's head off, or you execute somebody or murder somebody, how could that person have redeemed themselves? Where is the redemption for this person? You don't believe in it. You talk about a correctional facility and correcting people, but the way you treat them brutally, proves that you are just as intolerant of them as they were of those of whom they trespassed against. That there really is no difference. And that human beings don't believe in each other anymore. They've given up on each other, and they trust blind legislation. They trust autocracy, just automatic governments and bureaucracy. They don't trust human beings anymore. The system and the world have taught us not to trust each other in our ideas and opinions and beliefs, and it doesn't support our creativity. It doesn't support our desire to express ourselves. We're stuck with what the founding fathers decided, and we got to be under 400 years of slavery or tyranny under democracy or American patriotism and white supremacist global imperialism under what the white four founders came up with 200 years ago. There's no room for us to be able to create our own societies and our own world as we want to see it today. We keep saying God bless America, and we accept God hating the world at the price of blessing America. We live in a world that it has a paradigm that justifies the tyranny that's going on in the world today. It is right. It is looked at as right. It is looked at as humane. It is looked at as just. And until that is challenged, we will continue to go on in this imprisonment that we are in as a world. And the world is moving towards that imprisonment. The world is moving towards that ideology. We have to resist against that. Entertain a society with no penal system. Entertain a society with no penal code where people agree to live in peace. Where people agree to live free from persecuting one another over myths and fables and fairy tales and customs and codes that justify lack of humanity, that has a dehumanizing zealotry. The idea that a human being that any action by any human being is irredeemable is purely a notion of somebody's mind. Even people on death row that has committed millions of murders, I wouldn't even say millions, I hate to exaggerate, but I like to add some mood to what I'm saying. But people who are serial killers and cannibals, they are redeemable. That's going to hurt some people. Every human being in society, no matter how heinous of a crime they committed, they're redeemable to walk to the grocery store and buy apples next to you. Do you know why that is? Because they're probably fucking doing it. Because America cannot catch all criminals. Look how many crimes that serial killers actually got away with before they were actually caught. So the likelihood and probability is that you are interfacing with the serial killer every day in the store. You are interfacing with murderers. You're interfacing with rapists. You're interfacing with pedophiles. You are interfacing with every type of criminal, every type of sadistic, psychotic individual that could ever exist. You are coming in contact with it. And America just can't catch all of them. The prisons are just not enough. The psychological institutions are just not funded enough. There's not enough psychotropic medication to go around. You are interfacing with mad women and mad men every day. And you don't know it. You just feel safe and secure because the justice system is so well propagated and promoted that you feel in a society where the evil and the disturbed are well confined. When the evil and disturbed are some of the people that are running and ruling and controlling your society. So if that's the fact, that many madmen and insane people and crazy people and serial killers and cannibals and all type of people that commit acts of bestiality and all type, you're living among them every day. And you don't have a problem with it. You know why you don't have a problem with it? Because you don't fucking know. And it's more people that are psychotic criminals that are free, and more people that are petty criminals that are locked up. Come on. This is a fact. There are more people free that are psychotic criminals than there are petty criminals that are locked up. That's a fact. Most people that are locked up in jail, most of them are locked up for petty crimes, non-crimes where no one was really hurt. There's no evidence of any long suffering or blunt injuries. Or most people are locked up for shit like that. That's a fact. Well, crimes where there was really no real victim. It was just they got caught with some possession of something, or they committed some crime where the evidence of the crime is speculation and myth and social standard, and you follow? It's not, most of the people. Not saying there's not some serious criminals, some people who did some serious stuff in jail. There are. But there's some people who've done some serious stuff that's not in jail and never will be because the white man is not perfect. And if you can entertain that you are walking among people that have done and are doing everything imaginable and known to man, and you're smiling in their face, want to be validated by them, want to be accepted, you in the club, in the clique with them, in the Masonic Lodge, you in the store with them, you follow, you at the party with them, and you don't have a problem with it. And you still support an inadequate system to confine the true problem, the true human problem. So it's only just a traditional idea and not an effective approach to dealing with problems among human beings, social problems among human beings. It's not effective. It's just traditional. It just makes sense. It makes the white man look good, that he has everything under control in America, and you just feel safer. And in reality, it's nothing. You know, you're not any safer than anybody else. Statistically, you're part of a number that could be victimized at any moment. You know, that's just what it is. And that the police will probably get there late, or they'll probably have to investigate what happened to you, and they would all by solving the crime, they would only support their own ego as being expert criminal crime solvers. But even after they solve the crime, they have not brought you back to life, nor have they got to the root of the problem to prevent these type of crimes from happening again. So it's really a false sense of security. If you can entertain that, then you can easily entertain a society without a penal code, because such a society would make you drop all of the mythologies and the fairy tales and fables and false sense of security that keeps white supremacy going. Let me just give you an example, and I love this subject. This is a real subject to me. I so much prefer talking about something like this than the stuff that I was talking about earlier. Let me give you an example. DFACS, DCFS. You got DCFS in Georgia, and they will, you know, it's a lot of wealth. I mean, it's some poorer places in Georgia, but there's a lot of wealth in Georgia. And you have DCFS in these so-called wealthy communities. And they go and they legally kidnap people's children and hold them hostage and pull them into their system where they take care of the children and supposedly, and, you know, who knows what happens under the psychotic, you know, supervision that they receive within those institutions. But you have DFACS in these wealthy communities and DCFS in these middle-class communities. And then you go into places like Detroit where there's true poverty and there's no community service, where the whole standard of how DCFS would have to manage that situation would be totally different than they would in a wealthy community because of the lack of resources that there, where poverty is legal. Then you have certain communities where people have a little bit more resources where they can legalize poverty because they have enough resources in order to really set the overall standard and the continuity of how they want people to exist in society. So then now you see a relativity. Now you see something new there. You see relative standards. You see, if you take defects from cultural and standard gangbanging in wealthy communities, and they focus all their energy on true impoverished communities, then we would not have a Detroit. You follow? We would not have poor communities anywhere. But it's not about eradicating poverty. It's about pushing the agenda and the motives of a particular institution that is making money off kidnapping people's children. It's a system that is created. You follow? That where they're making money. So why would they go and offer the resources that are needed to very, very poor communities so that they won't be poor, and then go to a society that's pretty wealthy and just take people's children over dumbass shit when they living better than half the poor black people are in the United States? It doesn't make any damn sense. It's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. So it's not about really caring for the children. It's about the ability to be able to gangbang standards, the resources to circumstantially gangbang standards, meaning that this is our gated community, this is the standards that we have, and this is how DCFS is going to help maintain the standards of this particular wealthy or gated community. If you don't comply and conform to these particular standards, we're going to take your children from you. We're not going to go in poor communities and really help families and people that really, really do need some type of help no matter what. There's some people in the communities that they're so poor, they probably would give all of their children to defects. They're not interested. There has to be some type of, they have to gangbang. They have to standard gangbang. I say the poorest person living in America, the poorest African American is living better than certain nations in third world countries. So it's about standard gangbanging, and it's not about compassion for other human beings at all. For example, where these resources that's going to DFACS for them to run these institutions and pay all these workers, to do what they got to do to come out and snatch people's children, the resources that's going to that, they could give those resources to actually help people where the type of impoverished situations that lead to what they consider to be neglect wouldn't exist. But no, they're not about helping families. They're about helping children, taking people's children. So they're against the institution of the black family because they would take their children before they would be willing to economically support the institution of black family. This is a fact. Because if they start to help the institution of black family, then they would have to help the community as a whole. They couldn't just pick and choose this or that situation based upon their corporate standards. They would have to look at the condition of the entire community, and they would have to help that community as a whole. But they're not interested in that. It's case by case. That's why you have a caseworker. It's case by case what they can do. So imagine a society without no type of penal institution. Some people say, "Oh, that will be anarchy." But what we have today is organized anarchy, meaning that in Ferguson you have anarchy, and you just have people that's willing to brutally address anarchy. They're willing to organize and use brutal force to address anarchy. But it's happening all over the United States, here and there. They just are willing to brutally put it out. So you still live in an anarchy. You just have the illusion of that there is some type of system in place that's controlling everything, and everything's neat, and everything's in order, and that's just not true. And the same belief you have in that supports the subjugation of your own people. It supports the criminalization of your own people. The same you that believe in a safe world, a safe society under United States imperialism and white supremacy, the same person of you that believe that is the same person that support the subjugation and an enslavement of your own people and incarceration. And not just you, those who believe that support their own incarceration and enslavement. That's a fact. Coming out of the matrix is realizing not just quitting your job and, dropping out of school, changing your diet, living in the forest. Coming out of the matrix is changing everything you think you know. We want to live off the grid materially, but we don't want to take our consciousness off the grid. We want solar panels and organic gardens and survival kits and, our own Ebola kits and our own, we want to get off the grid materially. We want to stockpile food and canned food, and we want to have a stockpile of weapons and build underground bunkers, but we don't want to mentally come off the grid. Because to mentally come off the grid would force you to challenge every single thing you believe you know, and to truly open up your mind and open up your consciousness to a world that's already existing, that's beyond the limits of a world that has been forced upon you. Coming out of the matrix is the point that you realize that the matrix don't really even exist, and that infinite possibility was already there. That you lived in an unlimited situation under the myth that certain limitations was imposed by somebody who made themselves appear as though they have superior power over reality. The white man makes it look like he has everything under control, but nothing's under control. You've always been on your own. You've always been in a world, and it's always been up to you. You've always been in a chaotic circumstance, in a chaotic situation that you have found order in. But the white man tells you it's because of me that all this shit is in order. And that's why you should support him and support his system and his reality, and not for a minute would you be willing to challenge yourself to just think on your own for a minute about everything. To just stop and rethink everything that you think you know. The white man is good at using overgeneralizations and using exaggerated situations in order to impose ideas on others. He'll take one dangerous situation and make you feel impending doom to accept his tyranny. He does that on a global level, and he does that on a local level. That's why they came up with racial profiling and all that, so that they can overgeneralize the wrong of a few or the heinous acts of a few to change their approach and justify their brutal approach to the masses. We should understand the sickness of a few. We should have compassion for the sickness of a few, because that's going to exist. The utopia that you are looking for never existed and never will exist. But the ability to have compassion and understanding for these things in society is how peace and sanity has been able to be maintained, period. But the white man, he takes the problems of a few and scare you into a police state, scare you into martial law. It imposes a penal system and a penal society, a debtor-creditor society, a society of force and pressure and compliance and obedience and submission. And you accept that under the auspices of your own safety and security. But really, you're not safe, and really, you're not secure. You live in an illusion that you are safe and that you are secure, that is being propagated to you by the media, by television, through education, and through programming. That you're not safe and you're not secure, certainly by the white man. And if you are safe and secure, it's because your safety and security extends beyond the white man's ability to cause safety and security. This is the fact. So he pushes that. And when you have a penal society, you force snitches. You force distrust among each other because their loyalty is to the police state. You create this type of thing. You create competition and self-righteousness. And you cause people to become unreal and to be liars. Because they have to be in order to keep it up. Because if you believe in the myth and you believe in the fairy tale and the lie, then it's up to you to keep that shit going. And we live in a society where we have been effectively able to keep the lie going, to keep the bullshit going, to keep the myth going. Black supremacy is breaking that myth, breaking through that myth. We don't want to be penalized. We want people to know that we can grow beyond our own problems, our own situations, our own circumstances, that we can evolve as human beings. Everybody wants that. Everybody deserves that. And everybody should be given that chance in the now. They should be given the chance for that radical moment of elevation, of self-consciousness, of compassion. Everybody is worthy of that. We're not safe. Only thing that is safe in this society with the programming that they're pushing is the white man. System is safe. The government is safe. They got more tanks, more militaries, more guns, and more bulletproof vests. The people are not safe. The people are not becoming safer, but the government is becoming more safer. We are becoming more insecure. This is a fact. We're becoming more quarantined even without the Ebola. We're becoming more contained. And we're becoming more suppressed. And society gives you the illusion of freedom just to find out what's on your mind. And then once you express what's on your mind, it comes out with the straitjacket. That's a fact. And then we in the conscious community take the same type of penalization attitude of the white man, as though we're not really trying to escape his thinking. We want to escape him. But when we escape, we want to steal his mind and take it with us. We're nothing but thieves of the white man's mind. We are runaway slaves, but we want to bring the white man's mind with us to the free world, and it's not going to work. You're going to have a radical shift in your paradigm, a radical shift in consciousness. For the first time in your life, you're going to have to think again. You're going to have to open up your mind and think again. You're going to have to be born anew. You're going to have to kill your goddamn self. Every belief, at least before you have come into black supremacy, 99% of everything that you think is fucking false and a myth and a fable and a fairy tale. The 1% that's not is the thinker. All the rest of the shit is bullshit. 99% of it. I would go as far as to say 99.1. You think just Jesus is a myth and Santa Claus is a myth and Columbus is a myth. The myths run way deeper than that, and that's a superficial level of recognizing the mythology. The myth runs so deep that it's almost unimaginable, and you will have to break through layers and layers and veils of veils in order to truly awaken your consciousness to become an organic, real, and conscious human being again. Because before then, you were nothing but a specimen, a statistic, a social security number, an ID, just one of the masses, just one of the sheep, the sheeple. And to the day that you woke up and got a thought, a consciousness, an idea that was radical against the programming that has been subjected on the masses of the people in society today, then you can say, I'm alive. Until then, you're just a robot. You're a robot with a shelf life. And your enemy is capitalized off your birth. He's capitalized off your death. And in the meantime, you have this illusion of existing. But the parenthesis that you call you fits perfectly into the equation of white supremacy. And black supremacy is forcing you to go beyond that parenthesis. That's a fact. To fathom something different. Some of us were able to do it. We was able to think about things like, back in the day, when we were really, really becoming conscious, we fathomed things like eternal life, which seems illogical because the white man capitalizes off death. So how could you possibly think that as a physical being you can have eternal life? We had real ideas. But now we think the ideas that we had, that he has given us, the older we get, the more we think his ideas are better. I shouldn't be thinking about things about world peace, and I shouldn't be thinking about eternal life and super health. I should just be thinking about how I can get a job in my retirement and my 401k plans and what my children are going to do when they get older and blah, 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 blah. You used to be thinking about how you're going to end the white man's world, white supremacists. There's a point when we all in our life had strong ideas. We had strong visions, you know. We were courageous enough to go against the programming. And now, people just trying to get it on their grind, trying to hustle. We have given up on the fact that we can radically change the world, radically alter the world that is around us. And in order to that, we're going to have to entertain. We're going to have to entertain some radical ideas. We're going to have to. Because it is the entertainment of those ideas that will pull us beyond the mediocrity of voluntary human slavery that we call capitalism, consumerism, to the day I die, in support of global white supremacy, imperialism, and the subjugation of all indigenous people all around the world, and the propagation of a system that cares less about the people and more about the wealthy and the ruling class. That's a fact. So I challenge people. Think about that. A society with no penal system. None of your organizations is telling you that. All of them is, oh no, you gotta cut somebody's head off. You gotta do what you gotta do. Entertain that. Because if you can't evolve as a human being to embrace some of these supreme ideas, why are you trying to change the world? Because you yourself cannot step into implementing or existing in something beyond the construct that exists. That's a fact. So we are not, black supremacy is not black-white supremacy. When you say supreme, you are going to the highest. That means you are ascending beyond something. We don't need a black version of Christianity, Hebrew Israelites, a black version of Judaism, a black version of Islam, a black version of democracy, a black version of a republic. We don't need a black version of white supremacy. We need to go beyond and reach and express a supreme level than the thoughts and ideas of an inferior-minded being that has imposed his inferior mind as a superior way. Because if we had a chance to think long enough for ourselves, we would think our way out of it. But we don't, because we're distracted by entertainment and consumerism. We're distracted by selfishness. Because to go beyond the idea of a penalization system is to damn near really be selfless. Because the penalization is supposed to protect. You support it under the auspices of the protection of yourself. But if you go beyond the limits of your own existence, you would not be concerned about the penalization of another based on the protection of yourself, because you would be about care about others first. You'd have a care about others approach. And nobody who is overwhelmed with the care of others, distracted with the fear of what's going to happen to them. We live in a society where people don't care about anybody, and they're more afraid of what's going to happen to them. And they support injustice under the auspices of their wealth and their individuality being protected until they are attacked by the same justice system that they supported. Then they realize the injustice of it, and then it's too late. It's too late by then. If we have a society with no penalization, then there must be a lot of selfless people there. Because the justice system is basically supposed to protect you. Basically, they tell you. It doesn't protect you, it just protects individuality. Because what really protects you really protects everybody. But we know everybody in this society is not protected. There's a lot of innocent people in jail, and there's a lot of innocent people being brutalized and attacked and mistreated in jail. So it doesn't protect everyone. It just gives people for a window, a temporary window. They get a opiate feeling of protection, of success, while their mortgage is being paid and while they have a good job and while they have money. They have just a small window, and then that window's up, and then they get to see what the system is really, what it really is. And by that time, it's too late to fight against the system, because they're spending so much time in order to rectify all the problems and situations and circumstances that they're going on in their life. There is a possibility of a society with no penal system. I say that to all you black nationalists out there, you Muslim nationalists, all you that sound like ISIS. You ready to cut people's heads off. Imagine that. A society with no penal code, no penal system. Imagine a society not based on capitalism. Imagine that. It's possible. Imagine a society that's not based on any type of economic system whatsoever. Now that's just not logical. Everything I've heard from the white man would beg to differ from that. Can you imagine a system, a community, a society with no economic system whatsoever? Because all economic systems would have to work together with the economic systems that are there to support global imperialism and global white supremacy. So any economic system that we set up today would have to work with the system of all systems, right? So if we have an economic system, what validates it as an economic system is it's systematic with all the other systems that exist. Imagine a society with no economic system. Period. No, he's crazy. No. Imagine a society with no economic system and no penal system. Uh-oh. Just a society with nothing but human rights. Whoa. Wait a minute, you mean there's no economic system, there's no penal system, it's just human rights. Wow. We're distracted by economics. We're distracted by judgment. We're poor because of economic systems. You know? We're mistreated because of penal systems. We suffer because of the acts of a few that are uncontrollable, period. And the society is just getting tenser and tenser. It's just getting more and more pressured and pressured. Tanks coming into our community. You say, well, look, let that one fool act up. We don't need the tanks. You follow? That one person acting a fool is not worth you putting everybody in a FEMA coffin. I mean, come on. Let's keep it real. We don't think like that. The white man has taught us we must have so much complete, absolute control over everything that we have put ourselves in the box. To we have voluntarily entered ourselves into our own imprisonment. You don't need a penal code. You just need people that really want to evolve, people that really have compassion, people that really want to enlighten. You got that, we can get somewhere. You don't have that, no penal system will do. Everybody will end up either dead or in jail. Everybody. But it is the enlightened few. It is the enlightened among us that will be the difference in our society. And it's our quest for enlightenment, our quest for awakening. That's really more important than anything that we're trying to achieve or obtain in society. Because without that, it's all paperwork, politics, and bullshit. So I want to give you a lot of ideas that just the mere entertainment of them will bring you out of the matrix. Because most ideas that you are given are consistent with the matrix. Most of these ideas, I don't see, it's not going to force you to evolve your thinking and to expand your consciousness. Most of these ideas are not. It's white black supremacy. It's just a black way to entertain white thoughts and white ideas. Think against all of those damn ideas. Think against them. You know, in Africa, we have a lot of neo-colonialism, and even a lot of the African traditionalism is influenced by white supremacy. We live in a world that has been influenced by white supremacy. So we must rebel against every goddamn thing until the white man is no longer in power, and then we can say, okay, well, certainly white man is not controlling this because he's not in power anymore. But while the white man is in power, most of the stuff that you see that you are gravitating to, that is institutionalized, is in alignment with white supremacy today in the world we live in. I'm going to open up the lines. I wanted to touch on that because I see that a lot. I see a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism, a lot of us wanting to murder each other. And I think the thing about black supremacy is you know who your enemy is so well in nature that you're able to have peace among your people. If you look at the murdering of monks, I mean, black people murder each other more than monkeys murder each other? I mean, what type of criminal system or penal system do monkeys have? And we say we're more evolved than the animals. But monkeys are ready to fight against people that's coming into the jungle to take over the forests and places that they live. They're willing to fight. But you don't see monkeys murdering one another. And you see human beings that's supposed to be civilized with penal systems murdering each other and having justification for torturing each other and justification for cruel treatment of one another. When do we remove all justification for cruelty and torture and suffering and acceptance of that of one another? And when do we obliterate those who must propagate those ideas of dehumanization? When do we obliterate them from reality? Becomes a great question. 857, make it plain.
Hello?
857, you live.
Hey, how you doing, my brother?
Good, and yourself?
Hello? Oh, it's just a pleasure, and I really, really appreciate hearing you, and you made me gravitate toward your truth. You know, and the penal system is really harsh because, I mean, I'm coming from, like, 50s when I was, when I was born and when I was growing up and all the things that, occurred in that time during the Newark riots, and I seen the stringent laws they put on just our community, and it was horrible. And I always longed to understand, why is this being done? Why are they treating me like this? So I'm just grateful for the opportunity of getting in touch with you and being able to, like, open up my mind. And so all I can say is that I agree with you. I would love to truly be a part of that and experience that, because the stuff that's going on now is not working. It's truly not working.
You're teaching.
Pardon?
You're teaching. And keeping that mentality without free thought is not going to work for us. We have to think the opposite of what all of those that thought were before us. We have to challenge every idea that is put before us. And you can't do that if you're so zealous on this or that idea and this or that position, because that's already been there. How's that revolutionary? Everything, it has to be a complete constructive change. Complete. And if you're still holding on to a lot of stuff that didn't create the world that we want to see, a lot of ideas and concepts and perspectives, then it's not going to happen. You're going to have to force yourself out of the box. You're listening to King Nova Black Supremacy Speaks